careers. There's just not one traditional copy and paste type future diplomat or person who's interested in international relations. There's so many different types of people who come from all different walks of life and all over the world. And yeah, so I'm very grateful that not only am I getting a chance to connect with you, each of you, and those who are going to be watching this on the recording on YouTube, but also that you get to connect with each other. I connected with some really great people who I've been able to build my own network, and I think that probably at some point I probably should create. Well, the WhatsApp group is that way for people to connect, but I don't think until we do the videos that we actually know what other people are doing, unless they drop in their LinkedIn's or things of that nature. But yeah, just feel free to come off mute. I mean, since it's a small amount of people right now, and even later, if you have any questions. But we're going to go ahead and jump in. Today, Google's always introducing some new things. Would you like Gemini to take notes today? I don't know. Do I? Also transcribe the meeting. Why not? Just try something. If I don't like it next time, I don't do it next time. Okay. Today we're going to talk about the Foreign Service Officer test and what it looks like to apply. There's one strong, significant part of the test, and that is one of the biggest hurdles that people face, and that is the personal narratives. One thing that I've noticed since last year when we first started, meeting in the virtual environment, is that I asked, what's the biggest challenge that you have? Should we talk about U.S. history? Should we go over math? Should we go over written expression? Should we go over situational judgment? No, let's go over personal narratives. So realizing how often they came up last year, and of course how often we test per year, well, the tests are available per year, I should say. I realized that I really need to do this at least 3 times a year. So that's what we're going to do today. You will see that some of the content that I've shared, and I will share this link with you now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you will get this link under the description. But you can actually follow along. And also, this is a worksheet that I've created that you can use to build your own personal narratives. So, yep, there you go. It's a Google link. It should be available for everybody. I did share it in the WhatsApp. Again, if you were watching this from home or virtually on YouTube, definitely join the WhatsApp group as well, and you'll get more tools like this. So this worksheet is not published. Again, I was talking to another future diplomat here, and we're just talking about the type of people that we are generally, right? And we have a heart, to be kind people. And although I probably should be copyrighting a lot of these things, and I probably will at some point, but or modify it. This worksheet and this guide that I'm sharing is from a book. This is a blank book, by the way. This is just me taking my own notes. Since I've done this last year, I was like, well, I think I need to take notes and actually do it the right way this time, or at least with more intention. So I'm creating a study guide and a study journal for those who are interested in taking the FSOT. So next year, probably this time, it'll be my 5th or 6th. I think it'll be my 6th published book. Hopefully my 2nd Amazon bestseller. But more important, it will be available for people to follow along as we go through this a 3rd year, and more importantly, help people get in. Good news is, if you're watching this right now and you're live up here now, you're not going to be the first ones to go in, and because there's been people who I've been very fortunate to study with that have gotten in, and they're in their stations now. So I've been checking in with them. They've been coming back, reporting in. It's exciting. There's a tandem couple. Well, they became a tandem couple in Lagos, Nigeria. One is the person, she's a lawyer. She got in July. So, and they were able to get her husband work with the department as well. And there's another couple. I need to get they actually just sent me some information, so I need to read about their update too. But I'm going to share my screen with you so we can jump into it. Yes, I do have structure with this. No, I do not want to do a monologue. If you have questions, feel free to converse with me. Because yeah, I mean, we're here. I just don't want to be, talking for an hour. So just feel free to ask each other questions, or you ask me questions. But I'm going to share the some actual questions from the FSOT, from the personal narrative prompts. Share this screen. If you're like me, that means that you have actually taken the FSOT at least once. Most people have, so don't feel bad if you're taking it twice or 3 times. There's ambassadors. There's podcasts I've listened to. There's ambassadors who have taken it 3 to 4 times, and it doesn't mean that they're dumb or not interested. It just means that some of them may not be good test takers, like myself. When I took the test, I actually got a lot of the questions right. They judge you on how many you get right, not how many you get wrong. So this year, we're focusing on how quickly I take the test, more so how many I get right along the way, instead of putting so much time in fewer questions. So, all right, we're gonna start from the top, and we're just gonna work through. So, when it comes to the prompts, there's a few things that we are considering. Intellectual skills, interpersonal skills, your communication skills, your management skills, your leadership skills, and your substantive knowledge. And overall, when you're taking the FSOT, and you're doing your application on the Department of State, on USA Jobs, you are going to be required to not only put up your transcripts and anything else that may be required, including any documentation. However, you will be required to also copy and paste or type your personal narratives. And what they're looking for, and just like I was saying earlier, I don't know if I was recording this or not, everyone that is taking the test or looking to become a diplomat through the Department of State, there's different agencies. There's 23 different United States agencies where you are also considered a U.S. diplomat, but just not a Foreign Service officer or a Foreign Service specialist. So I will be sharing those agencies throughout the series, as I did last year. But you don't have to be one certain type of professional. You don't have to already be in international affairs. You don't have to be a graduate from the top school in the country and have done internships through the presidential council. Like you don't have to be this type of person. You can be an average person who makes a difference in your community, in your household, in your church, in your school, at your job, among your friends. I've listened to so many podcasts. I've read and heard different stories of what makes a good diplomat, and what makes a good person to apply, and what type of stories is essential when you're creating your personal narratives. And one consistent thing that I'm noticing is that they're not all the same type of person. So there's a personal narrative, and some of these are available for public, right? And I will be sharing some of those, not today, but on the next call. I do have a personal narrative example, actually a series of personal narratives I'm going to share today. This should probably run for another maybe 20 minutes before maybe 20 to 25 minutes before we wrap. So again, feel free to ask questions. But I'm going to share an actual personal narrative. I'm going to go through the communication skills, management skills, leadership skills, intellectual skills, and others. So you can see how it applies. But the most important thing is don't feel intimidated when it comes to, well, my story isn't as great as somebody else's, or, oh my gosh, I was not the CEO of whatever international firm, so I don't have any stories about how I developed or whatever. Diplomacy is not all. It's not just one facet. It can be economic. It can be military. It can be a lot of things. But we'll go over that later as well. So some of the stories that I read, you can be and I say stories, the actual personal narratives that were chosen. They say, "Oh, this is good. We want you to proceed to the FSOA, the Foreign Service Officer Assessment." Um, it was somebody planning their wedding. That was some of their leadership skills, their communication skills, and they were prompted with some of those same things. So, an example um, of a question, and this is for interpersonal skills. In the Foreign Service, you will be called upon to interact effectively and diplomatically with people in difficult situations. Describe how you have used your interpersonal skills in a specific situation to resolve a problem or achieve a goal. Now, the guide and the tip points are: include the following elements in your response. Identify the goal or problem and the specific steps that you took and what was the result. Excuse me. Next time I put it on mute. Next time I need to clear my nose. The method that you want to use, and I'm going to go through some examples tonight. The method that you want to use when creating your personal narratives is the STARL method. Situation, I made this bold because I didn't before. Task, action, and result. Um, I was telling another future diplomat earlier on this call that I'm in my second and a half career. So the first 13 years of my career, I was an HR professional. I'm still in HR, but I'm more so on the sales side. So more so like on the negotiating contracts and building relationships and engagement with global organizations. But before, I was only basically recruiting, hiring, processing paperwork, hiring paperwork, um, those kind of things, like HR generalist, HR manager, HR director in that space. Um, and because of that, this method is actually very familiar to me because it's a very similar method that you use when you're doing job interviews, right? There's so many ways that you can do a job interview and how you respond, but think about those stories, and you want to more so take the listener or your audience, the interviewer or the person who's going to be reading your story, all the same, and bring them through a digestible way of hearing it or receiving it. Um, I think I think because of the times that we're in, it's kind of hard to just take somebody through a story and there not be a conclusion or something that they can look forward to. I think a lot of minds, I'm not going to say the average mind, but I think a lot of minds, because of the digital space or the information age that we're in now, um, it's a it's a lot of information coming at us through sound, through visuals, through screen, and in many ways, through print, through social media, and others. So I think that kind of makes, as a recruiter, I would say that we're very short-sighted. It took us all of 7 seconds to look at somebody's entire life, business life, or career, and decide if they were going to be a good fit, or at least should they even be in front of my desk. Like, should I even look at this resume for this job or not? And even when it comes to the personal narratives, telling somebody a story with no conclusion, people tend to space out. My goal is for you to not space out while I'm talking to you today. My goal is to make this relatable, talk to you about the actual technical aspects of the STARL method and writing your personal narrative by giving you examples of personal narratives. But I definitely do not want to just have you kind of space out or be on your phone or jump to something else. So this method actually helps people digest the information easier, because sometimes when you're talking, people are subconsciously looking for certain aspects. So they may be responsible for the reason why you're talking to them. They're asking you a question, or they're prompting you with something. And I'm looking over here because I have another screen over here. But they're subconsciously only looking for this word, that action, that result, whatever the case is for them. So the STARL method: situation, task, action, result, and learning. So what was the situation? What task did you take? What action did you take? What was the result? Well, I'm sorry, what tasks were involved? What actions did you take to get there, or steps? What was the result? And what did you learn from it? That helps, again, just frame it in a way to help people digest it through reading or through hearing. So some examples: leadership experience. Discuss a situation where you led a team, managed a project, or demonstrate leadership skills in a challenging environment. Now, a little, I didn't put a, I'm typing this as, I just finished this up like yesterday. So there may be some mistakes up here, right? I'm still working on it. Bear with me, I'm human. But this is the process. So these questions do change yearly, a little bit, but the essence of leadership, interpersonal communication, that's still what they're looking for. So even if they tweak it a little bit, it is still at the very essence what they're looking for. So, but the best thing you can do is you can still pre-type them out, have them ready, because again, they're still going to be in the same scope of what they're looking for. And then once you get the application, or the applications are open, I should say, um, you can go ahead and read them. And on that day, if not that, like within that 3-day period, that's my recommendation. Within that 3 to 4 day period, go ahead and like knock out the application, 20 minutes, and then the personal narratives. The reason why you do want to go ahead and put the personal narratives in as quickly as possible is because the seats fill up very quickly when it comes to you actually being able to take the test. That's what happened to me and a lot of others. The dates where I was actually trying to take the test were all completely booked because I waited to submit my personal narratives. That is not what you want to happen to you. So, but yeah, you can definitely prepare these ahead of time. Something you cannot prepare ahead of time is your essays. That is on the test. That was a little confusing to me early on, and a lot of others, not knowing when I was going to need these pieces of information. So yeah, you're learning to write on like in the moment while you're preparing for the test, not knowing in what context you're going to use it. But my goal is going through this FSOT study guide with everyone is to actually let you know what to expect in real time. So you're not going to have to write an essay for the application. They're just prompts. They're just 3 to 4 sentences, basically a little paragraph, that you're going to respond to for each prompt. And then during the actual test, that's when you will do your essay. And it's just one essay, and they're really easy, by the way. You just got to learn. The main thing they're looking for is how do you communicate. That's the main thing they're looking for. All right, so the prompts. Something So leadership experience, interpersonal skills, communication skills. I'm going to read through the questions, and then I want to help you guide your thoughts on, well, what stories do I have, or what projects do I have, or what how can I make my story relevant? I'm going to run through like a few exercises to help you pick or make a list of how you can do that, and then we'll go into the personal narratives, examples, and actually how to compose it. So leadership skills, just read that one. Interpersonal skills, describe an instance where you had to use your interpersonal skills to resolve conflict, build consensus, and manage relationships effectively in a multicultural environment. So I can make this just a little larger. let's say that much. Oh, it's not gonna limit. Okay, it's fine. Communication skills, illustrating your ability to communicate effectively, either in writing or orally in a professional setting. This might include examples of persuasive communication, public speaking, or complex report writing. Management skills, provide an example of a time when you effectively manage resources such as personnel, budgets, projects, particularly in a challenging scenario. You may want to also include, oh, they did say assets. I think they did not say assets. So if you work in a capacity where you manage assets, let's say you're a gym owner or you are a GM and you have multiple assets, including computers and different devices, different whatever, copiers, whatever. There's so many different ways. Like, do not shortchange your experience. If you work at a daycare, same thing, where you're managing people, process, data. I mean, so many different options here. But the key thing is, how did you manage those things or those people and in a challenging scenario? Analytical skills, detailing a scenario where you had to analyze a complex situation, making recommendations, and implement a solution. This could involve, I'm sorry, problem solving in uncertain or challenging contexts. Sustainable knowledge. This is not a right or wrong answer. This is a 100% why you and why do you want to join the foreign service. The foreign service seeks to a diverse workforce, right? With broad skills, different depth of experience, and to represent the United States abroad and the mission thereof. So what they're looking for is for you to briefly describe why you chose this career track. No one can write this answer better than you. So, and that's actually something that we have not covered, the different tracks. There's multiple career tracks. Everyone doesn't have to be management. Everyone doesn't have to be diplomatic. There are multiple career tracks. There's a political career track. Do y'all know the others?
I think there's public affairs, economic, and maybe consular.
So, is that a career track? I
I,
think
I
you're
know
right.
everyone. I know everyone has to do something at a consulate, but I also think you can choose it as
You
your
just be
full. But I'm not. Don't quote me on that. I know economic and public affairs is definitely one though, or public diplomacy, something like that.
for sure.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you're right. I think you're right. Everybody quote Grace. She's right.
yeah, don't
She's
quote
right.
me.
So, but the consulate, I'm gonna put an asterisk on that one. But the others are 100% right. I do remember those. I do agree that I think everybody has to work in a consulate. If you wonder what a consulate is, for those who are watching, they are the individuals who are responsible for making sure that your passport or visa um, is everything it needs to be while you're abroad, and you need that support. They are there for you. So if you are getting your passport or renewing your passport and you are abroad, then they are there for you. If you're local, then you know passport services are there too. So yep, this prompt is going to ask for examples demonstrating just that, relevant to like is essentially why you in that space. All right, how do you think about what projects that you have? So again, coming from a career space or an HR space, if you're only going to look at, and I don't recommend you do, but if you're only going to look at your professional experience, take a look at your resume and look at each individual bullet point. Each individual bullet point on your resume should be, and depending on what part of the world you're in, you probably say CV, curriculum vitae. Each bullet point should be how you made an impact, what made you different, how you were competitive, not only what you did, because what you do is simply a job description, right? But how you stand out. I'm giving you 2 for 1 on this video. If your resume doesn't look like that, you want to make sure you're creating those bullet points so you stand out. and loaded with metrics, because how are you judged for your success? Anyway, so each bullet point, I did this in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of challenges, with a certain amount of resources, and this was the result. Or I accomplished this result, or in resume writing terms, um, succeeded $200 million budget with team of 4 feeding 400,000 people within 30 days. I mean, if just make it whatever that job is. But like, okay, well, tell me more about that. How, like, in a leadership way, intellectual way, how did you communicate? How did you manage? How did you analyze? Like, there's so many ways to break that down. So each bullet point can be an individual response for your personal narratives. If you are a homemaker, or if you don't feel like you're in a corporate setting, or your work isn't that professional, which no matter what you do, your work is enough, because they really do want a diverse workforce, and what you do, it matters. Just think about times where you were involved with multiple people, multiple assets, multiple things. You had to manage a situation, or strangely enough, right now, let's say, and this is real life for me, let's say you're also not only managing a study group, but you're also planning your 20th year class reunion for your high school, and you're the leader of it. Okay, how do you manage your budget? How did you choose decorations? How did you pick a team? How do you deal with so many different types of personalities? How did you get to the conclusion of everyone having a good time? Was there a certain artist or something that everyone wanted, but it seemed impossible to get it? How did you get it, or how did you remedy a solution in place of that? I'm pretty sure I could probably come up with something there too. But home, I helped my wife plan our wedding. Um, that's a whole, like, for you, it can be what you did for, if you are a soccer coach for your kids, or you're a basketball player, how you manage a team, or soccer player, or football player. Um, how any interaction where it's you and others, that's really what they care about. How do you work with others? Respectfully, I'm going to tell you something that I was told from a diplomat in residence. Diplomats in residence, by the way, are diplomat. They're recruiters. They're recruiters for diplomacy, for the Department of State. If you go to LinkedIn, if you don't know who your diplomat in residence is, and if you have questions for your local diplomat in residence, the residence is a local diplomat who you can talk to. You can just go to LinkedIn and look up your area, and they will be there. You can connect with them, send them a message, and they typically do meet you in person, in a group setting. Being in Atlanta, we meet at a Kroger. I mean, it's very low key. But it's a Starbucks inside of that Kroger. But a diplomat in residence told me that there's a lot of great people with huge backgrounds, larger than life experiences, that do not make great diplomats because of who they are individually. They don't work well with others. They can push a mission, they can push productivity. They're great managers in every aspect. They made $500,000 last year in their salary, but they don't work well with others, and that's the reason why some of them are just not good diplomats, and they're not going to choose them. Same thing with another individual who has 4 degrees, um, and this person has not yet been able to pass the FSOT at all, after 5 times, 5 times, I believe. And in reflection, what this individual has told me is that, they're just thinking about quitting, they're thinking about giving up. But I say it's not about the knowledge, and this is what I received from the diplomat residents about that situation because I brought it to him. So it's not. He said it's not about the knowledge that you have. It's about who you are when it comes to helping others. So you can be a teacher, but are you the type of person to implement what you know? So take that little nugget. All right. There's so many different ways that you can pull pieces from your life, different parts of the community. Are you a part of a community group, part of a church, part of a membership, part of a library group, like where you're connected with others? And what did you do? How did you make an impact? How did you help others? How did you connect? Um, and you can use any of those for the personal narratives. So this worksheet you can actually use to put your answers up here. Your role or title. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be professional. It can be whatever you are, dad, mom, or soccer coach. It doesn't matter. Industry organization. This just helps you focus and have intent when you're writing. Years of experience. This is really for you. So when you're writing 20 years experience and okay, well, there should be a difference between the 2-year person and the 20-year. So they're going to be looking for more depth. Leverage your experience. And then each bullet point or each item, write it down. And the challenges you faced and the projects you completed. You're going to have 30 different examples of what you can write about. And if you don't fill out all 10, it's okay. But I promise you, if you are filling these out with intent, you will get through them and you will have plenty of options. A lot of people get stuck on just this aspect, which is, what am I supposed to write about? You can write about these things. All right, the STARL method. For the sake of time, I'm going to go directly into a persona. So this is a person that shared their narratives, and this is an example of how you can compose it. So they shared their. I have my narratives, by the way, and I'm going to look to see if I can improve them a little bit more. I've improved this. This will be my third time improving them. Since they're giving me an option to do it, I just want to do it. But I'm using someone else's narratives. This is not the guy's name. It's a different name. That is his job. But kindly shared the narratives, and I broke down the STAR method using the narratives. So here's the persona. Marcus Langford is a seasonal operations manager at the Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills, a flagship luxury property catering to high-profile guests, international diplomats, and business executives. By the way, even if he was just a front desk manager or a front desk rep, like you can still use, if you work at McDonald's, you can still use your experience. How did you manage a crowd of customers in rush hour? You can still use your experience. Do not let fancy titles and what other people do suffocate your confidence. With over 12 years of experience in hospitality management, Marcus oversees daily hotel operations, ensures exceptional guest experience, and optimizes efficiency across departments. His role requires a balance of leadership, interpersonal finesse, crisis management, and strategic decision making. Now, let's break it down. So, personal narrative for leadership. The question is, describe how you have demonstrated leadership. Describe how you have demonstrated leadership either on one particular occasion or over time, including the following elements in your response: the situation and the steps you took to show leadership. What was the result? All it's asking is for you to use the STARL method. That's what the extra pieces are there. So, and here's the response. During the holiday season, a severe staffing shortage threatened guest services. So by now you should be thinking STA, like, so you should be thinking, okay, well, what's the situation? Here's the situation. During the holiday season, a severe staffing shortage threatened guest services. I formed a crisis team, reallocating employees, and led daily briefings to maintain efficiency. To keep morale high, I recognized staff contributions and ensured clear priorities. By fostering teamwork and making swift decisions, we maintained service quality and avoided revenue lost. My leadership not only stabilized operations, but strengthened team resilience. This experience mirrors the leadership required in diplomacy, coordinating diverse teams under pressure while ensuring success. This was the L in it, by the way. But I'm gonna actually leave the rest of these for you to read. But let's break that down. It's something I keep saying it because I said it out loud and I said I'm gonna just type it in there because I like saying it. Let's break it down because we're doing it. We're breaking it down. All right, so here it is. Here's the situation. During the holiday season, a severe staffing shortage threatened the guest services at Hilton due to unexpected illness among the key employees. What was the task? As an operation manager, I had to ensure services continuity and guest satisfaction despite the reduced workforce. What was the action? I assembled the Avengers. I assembled a crisis team, reallocated employees from lower priority areas, and led daily briefings to clarify responsibilities and keep morale high. I also provided real-time support to frontline staff. What was the result? Despite the staffing shortage, we maintained high service standards, avoided revenue loss, and improved team cohesion. What did I learn from this? Or what did he learn from this? This experience reinforced the importance of decisive leadership under pressure and the value of proactive problem solving skills essential in diplomatic environment where resources may be limited, but service expectations remain high. Now, one small thing that you're going to notice with, well, first of all, I'm good at him. I'm glad he did that. One thing you're going to notice with this example as you're going through the examples, as I started breaking them down, you'll notice that the one of the main traits of a personal narrative is it has to be 1,300 characters or less. Um, the broken down version is a little bit more than that. So if you're breaking down, if you're working through the situation, the task, the action, the result, and learning from your situation, then you take that response as you're answering that question. Well, what was this situation? What was the task? What action did I take? Um, or what was the result? And what did I learn? And then you're actually putting it in your response here. Well, I'm sorry, not here. Did I? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't go down. I didn't go down. You can ask yourself the same questions. Describe the challenge. So this is leadership. Describe the challenge. What was your role in the responsibility? What steps did you take to resolve it? What was the outcome of your leadership? What did you learn that applies to diplomacy and leadership? You can take that. Your response may start out this large, but then you start calming it down a bit, revising it, and you'll hit your 1,300 characters. And if you're going to print this out, then you can actually start writing them in there. Now, if you want to save papers and save trees and save the environment, you can just put them in Microsoft Word or Google Word or a note and do a count, a character count. And that will let you know how many characters you have. You'll realize very quickly that it may start out a little complicated if you're not used to writing. I've written 5 or 6 books. I need to know exactly how many books have I written. I've written 5 or 6 books, and I'm still challenging myself to write better. I published multiple articles online, news articles, um, and I'm still challenging myself to write better. So it's not that one person's experience is going to make them a better. Honestly, it's based on the situation and what the reader or the audience is requesting. So use this. It's gonna look like a lot, but then you start realizing how simple it is and how simple you can make it and how you can also knock out your personal narratives um, within a week if you want it. So this is definitely a really great way to make it easy. Um, I'm all about prompts. I'm all about asking yourself the right type of questions that will help improve intent for me as a writer, for me as a husband. I'm always looking for different ways I can be more present in whatever I'm doing, including working with you. But in composing this personal narrative guide, I highly recommend if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in WhatsApp, and also feel free to drop your personal narratives in the big group, so that way others can also be vulnerable and share theirs. Grace.
Yeah, just a couple questions. The first being, I noticed that in the example persona you gave, I couldn't see all of the questions he answered, but it seemed like they're all related to his job for the most part, except for the substantive knowledge one. And I was just wondering, like, you said like either personal, professional, but do you have to like, is it best to choose like, okay, I'm gonna answer all professional or I'm gonna answer all personal, I should mix it?
In one response, you should stick with one situation. Now, in another narrative, you can shift it based
Okay.
on as is relative, and that's what I was told from successful submitters of the personal narratives that were approved.
Okay, that's helpful. And my other question is just kind of about like the ending, like the result and the learning piece of it. Have you ever been told that someone their result was the learning? Like maybe it actually like maybe the result wasn't as positive, but it was a really good learning experience and they took like they try, I don't know, like if that's ever a case, or does it always have to be like I was very successful in this?
No, because so this is something I've noticed recently, and this is about diplomacy. To not be a geek about it, I do love like diplomacy type movies and shows, right? So there's a Netflix movie or show called The Diplomat, actually. It just came out a couple years ago. They just did dropped the new season recently. And one line really stood out to me. And why I'm bringing this up, because I mean that's fake and this is real of what we're doing. It's because the entire show they had diplomats and ambassadors on scene on the set to make sure that everything was factual that was happening, at least outside of the entertainment scenes. But yeah, and you can watch those YouTube clips where real diplomats are evaluating the legitimacy of the show. But one statement really stood out to me, and this is going to relate to what you're saying is um, sometimes you're going to be placed in a situation where you're choosing the and I'm rough quoting here, the the lesser of two bad options. I think somebody else has quoted it as like um, some of like the worst of two, well, the least worst option of two evils or something like that. But either way, sometimes you're placed in a non-successful situation, and you just have to choose this like the best choice that's gonna have obviously the best result, but also the least risk, the least impact changing, or the least effect to whatever country or partner or foreign minister or whatever that case is that you're working with. So to answer your question, it doesn't always have to be an I fed a million people or and I won the game by 1,000 points. Like no, well, sometimes it's just preparing for the next game or the next situation. Um, and that is something you can learn from. And I think, especially as it pertains to leadership, there's always going to be someone or something that is going to challenge you enough where you don't have the answer, but you have the method that can get you to the vehicle that can get you to the next space.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. That's helpful.
No problem. Sorry, I know that was a long response.
No. It's helpful. I think, like for me personally, it's just that some of the hardest challenges I face in my job,
Yeah,
they didn't always have the happy, like, nice little wrap it up with a bow on top ending that you would have liked if every, but they were also like the most significant um like experiences for me in the job, and they taught me the most. So that's why I was kind of wondering, like, would that be a negative thing for me to highlight something that didn't have that happy ending, that maybe someone else, they did feed the 1,000 people, but I didn't, that type of thing.
so I think the biggest thing that you can take from each question, and this is the biggest advice that every single diplomat has ever given in every weekly or monthly seminar that they offer on the state website. Actually answer the question. Some people kind of go off into the deep end looking to be really deep and looking to be, very um I don't know. It's kind of just go off the hinges a bit, but just actually answer the question. So an example of that, um, describe a situation. So this is communication skills. Describe a situation in which you use your communication skills, either in English or another language, to further and aim or achieve a goal. Now, what you're talking about is to further aim instead of achieving a goal. So that's another way of, all right. Well, that was a challenge. Um, intellectual skills. So describe a time when you responded innovatively to an unanticipated circumstance to solve a problem. Included elements in your response, the story or method. Um, describe how you have used your interpersonal skills in a specific situation to resolve or achieve a goal. So no, it doesn't have to be in the grand finale. Well, no, it doesn't have to be there. But the main thing is, as you said, well, did you learn something, and how did you handle that challenging situation? I think the best key thing is just make sure you're actually answering that question for what they're looking for, and
Yeah.
it'll make sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. And I do want to add this one moment, this one thing. You also asked, is it okay to kind of mix? Yes, definitely stay in the same space in one prompt. But when in doubt, I mean, you can't go wrong with, just keeping the same, especially if you find yourself, um, if let's say a part of your life, your community service, your whatever, your time in school, your time in, if it can't deliver enough bullet points or projects or tasks or challenging times, then yeah, you can just stay like, well, if it helps you think thoroughly about one space in your life, then definitely stay. But if you have plenty to pull from in different aspects, the main thing is just within that one prompt, just stay
Hmm.
in that same space, if it's professional or personal or communal, whatever the case is. But yeah, that's what I was advised about it.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
No problem. Does anyone have any questions, or does anyone want to take a stab? If you have to go, because it's 8:04, I'm a big keeper of my word. Typically, these do run from 7 to 8. As we get closer to testing times, we tend to go over maybe about 30 minutes. But if I always say, if you have to go, feel free to go. I'll share the link in the group. But yeah, so if anybody wants to take a stab at verbally, and I can pause the recording if need to, sharing what your response could be to one of these prompts, feel free. Would not mind hearing it. And as you're thinking about it, I actually, without thinking about it, um, earlier I was telling how I got involved in this group and how I got involved in doing these webinars here. And if I would have shortened it just a little bit, that could have been a personal narrative. My response could have been a personal narrative. It can really be anything. Two things to look for when you're writing your personal narratives: how you write and how you handle situations. I mean, that they're not looking for you to be the Rock or some the hero of every story. But how you handle situations, because difficulty times will come. The um, the diplomat that just started last year, that's in Lagos with her husband, and I need to catch up with him, but she said that it's already very challenging. So that's exciting and nervous at the same time. All the butterflies in the stomach, but it definitely makes me excited to just realize this is not a career like anything I've done before. Yes, these skills of everything I've done can roll over. Everything you've done, it can roll over. It can be useful, um, regardless if in today's time DEI initiatives are being abolished in almost virtually every organization. But the Department of State, the one key component to my understanding that they care about is every experience is different and every experience is useful. And everybody from the Ivy Leagues and everyone from, the international affairs, everyone from the whatever spaces, yeah, their experiences are useful too, but they're not the only ones that they're uh, useful here. So I'm going to conclude by saying, don't use ChatGPT to write your modules, or I'm sorry, your prompt responses. You can, if you need guidance on how to write or what you can write, you can do that. But definitely don't cheat yourself, because when you get to the essay, what you don't want to happen is they look at your entire profile, right? The way you wrote your personal narratives, and then they look at how you wrote your essay in real time, and it's two different voices. Definitely just learn to take your time and write a short story within three to four sentences. That's really what 1,300 characters is. 3 to 4 sentences. It's just a paragraph. And to prove that, okay, here are the sentences. Well, let's go to the real. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 6 sentences, but most of these are like just a standard paragraph. I mean, that's not a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just 4 sentences. So don't, yeah, challenge yourself, but don't sweat yourself so hard to a point where you realize what to say, paralysis by analysis. When you're just trying to write 4 sentences, like just write the sentence. Don't be afraid of it. Just write the sentence and then correct it, improve it from there. But the main thing is, how do you write and how do you handle situations? But that is all I have. I will stay on as I usually do, just in case anyone has any other questions or any support that may be needed. But I really appreciate every single person that is here live. I do apologize because I did not put the event in the WhatsApp group. I'm just so used to it kind of doing that, but I need to just be a little bit more consistent about it, actually putting it there. But I will be a little bit more diligent about reposting the link and reminding throughout the week. I do have a lot of things going on during the week, including my full-time job, and I'm actually writing another book for my mentor. Um, yeah. Anyway, for 20 years in the Army, 20 years as a judge, 30 years as an educator, and another 40 years as a community leader. So he has a huge story spanning over the time from like 1942 to present. He actually has 6 degrees, doctrine. He's working on another certificate. I'm like, dude, sit down. You've done enough. But either way, I'm here if you need me. Drop your personal narratives in the chat. If not, I will catch you next week. We're gonna actually write personal narratives live next week. So we're gonna be working on personal narratives for a month. So 3 more sessions we'll work on personal narratives because that's how critical it is. And now that if we're here in the month of February that there's a freeze and you can't test, so that just gives you more opportunity to practice on it, and we'll just make sure you're confident as you're going into it in June. So thank you, Liz. Appreciate you, Grace, Nathan. Um, I'll stay on it if y'all want to chit chat. I'm gonna hit stop on the video, but yeah, we're done. Y'all have a great night.